get to the yard, we're ready to do big things. From the job site to the ballpark, we come together and gear up with pride, ready to perfect our craft and dare to be great. Strauss High Performance Workwear is proud to partner with Major League Baseball, celebrating the preparation and dedication it takes to safely get the job done. Because whether you're on the field or in the field, your gear is a source of pride. Strauss and Major League Baseball. Gear up, go yard.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead, and Greg Soulje is here with us today for a early week look at the weather. So welcome, Greg. Great to have you with us.
Nice to be with you, Sarah. Hope one and all are enjoying World Dairy Expo today, opening of it, I believe, and goes for the next couple of days. And if you're going to be out and about, it is more or less a feel like July 30th or August 30th, as opposed to the last day of September, not only there, but over a wide area, the Plains and Corn Belt locale. So, and enjoy this stuff for the next several days.
Yeah, it's looking to be a great dairy expo here in Madison. It is the first day, you have that right, and the weather is just, it's perfect. The sun is out, and we're looking forward to a great day. Before we get started here on the weather, we want to make sure we acknowledge our sponsor, Strauss Workwear. And Strauss is a family-owned company, global company. It's third generation. They design, manufacture technical workwear and footwear for farmers, builders, and craftsmen. It's the tool you wear. So, Greg, let's take a look at the weather. And your slides are up.
All right. Yeah, here on this last day of September 2025, getting ready to already roll into the last quarter of 2025. And like we had mentioned, it is more or less a feel like almost mid-summertime there at Madison. You guys will be into the 80s or well into the 80s over the next couple of 2 or 3 days. But saving grace in all this heat has been this wide range of daytime to nighttime temperatures. You can cool to the 50s and 60s and come back nicely into the 80s. And even there were some spots, at least just south of Madison on Monday, that tickled, and back into Iowa as well, that tickled the 90-degree mark. And that's certainly in the realm of possibility as well. And that is kind of record flirting territory. And a lot of the records are still somewhere in the mid to upper 90s for late September. And they go to about 90 at least as far north as northern Illinois through the 10th of October. But there are markedly cooler days ahead, but more typical of early August. So enjoy this stuff while you may. Plenty of opportunity to get out there from last week's rains or continue on in the wake of any significant rainfall. And there are folks that need additional significant rainfall. As of the 28th of September, soybeans, about a one-fifth, around 18, 19, 20% of them have been harvested nationwide. I think the leaders in that pack from yesterday's briefing were Illinois and in Ohio. And parts of Indiana as well. But then again, that's kind of the corridor of the worst dry, drought-ridden areas of the Corn Belt. Meanwhile, topsoil moisture shortages, it's the Buckeye State at 77% short, Land of Lincoln at 75% short. That's even taking into account some of the rains that came through the northern end of the state about a week to 10 days or so ago. So we do have work to do, and we will begin to work on that about 10 days out from now. You know this is never going to last forever. So a little more typical early to mid-October feel, and hopefully rainfall expected. That'll kind of maybe allow us to tap the brakes a little bit on what should be a pretty rapid harvest this year. Meanwhile, across the plains, it's pretty much the same story. Northern and central plains, late season heat, no organized moisture down to the south. Winter wheat planting continues to spread on northward pretty quickly, and hopefully you get it done where you can, because there will be delays shaping up, at least across the Dakotas, maybe some of the spring grain areas in reality, but more so southward into Nebraska next week with an increase in shower activity. About 13% of that winter wheat acreage has emerged, and we've got more than half the winter wheat acreage planted in South Dakota, Colorado, Nebraska, Montana. So again, the testimony to the warm, dry weather and even hot weather relative to late September, early October. Imelda and Umberto, and a few days ago, Gabrielle, ramped things up across the tropical waters of the Atlantic. But like we've been talking about, and more or less kind of Imelda is a little more of a homegrown system, but it came within a couple of 100 miles of the Space Coast. That's it. There's a frontal boundary offshore. Wind shear is taking hold of that. And Umberto, they're pretty impressive on the satellite pictures from a photogenic standpoint, but that's about it. And there'll be rain, and the rain is coming on down across Virginia, the Carolinas, and points on southward. Some squally weather along coastline areas and into the Outer Banks, and that is essentially it. Everyone else in good shape with outdoor work and early harvest as you venture westward into the Delta and Mid-South. And some scattered shower activity, the first of several upper troughs moving into the Pacific Northwest. Hopefully, we think it'll generate some meaningful rainfall in the next 5 to 6 days. There, some of those showers will be working in and across the Dakotas, and a short and very short continues to be the story regarding topsoil as well through Washington State and in through Oregon. So that is the headlines on this last day of September. Here are the maps and charts. And again, you can see some shower activity across the Intermountain West, some more significant rains for a change, and a little more moistening of the atmosphere. So that should preclude any fires. You get these systems that come ashore. A lot of times in summertime, you're just sparking these dry-based thunderstorms, lightning, setting off fires. But this will be a little more meaningful moisture in folks' area rain gauges into the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. And you can see Imelda down there, well offshore. No sign of it coming into the U.S. mainland, moving out to sea with time. Think Umberto and Imelda, like we had with Aaron about 3 weeks or so ago. We had a pretty good cool snap coming on southward. We'll anticipate that as well as once Imelda gets to about 35 or so degrees north latitude, that'll buckle the jet stream southward, and we'll get into some cooler days and some, at least hopefully some wetter days prior to the drop off in temperatures to really no worse than seasonal norms. That's it. If you lost track of that, for example, at Madison, if you're going to stick around there into next week for some reason, whatever, daytime readings will be in the 60s. That's more typical for Madison, Wisconsin for the first week of October. So you can see the rain in the Pacific Northwest, some scattered showers and thunderstorms across the northern and central Rockies, a little moisture still, kind of a back spin of moisture back into Florida. And other than that, high pressure and control across the Midwest. You can see kind of a stronger high over Hudson Bay, James Bay, north of Lake Superior. I think we get those two tropical systems to move north. That high will build on southward. So there should be a pretty good increasing northeast wind, some easing of temperatures, but the atmosphere is going to be warming up aloft. So that sinks things. You get this compression of warming, but you'll have a breeze involved. We'll have humidity. Great for outdoor work and harvest. Not great because it just means much faster evaporation. But in the same token, you're, into the 80s to near 90 by day, and you're able to fall back in the 50s and low 60s at night. You like those days in summertime, but they're more dominant at this point in early autumn. Otherwise, most of the Pacific Northwest still into shower activity on Wednesday morning, Thursday afternoon, scattered showers, thunderstorms there, and either side of Florida. It looks like there'll be a trend back into wetter weather there, non-tropical, just the sea breezes off the Atlantic and the Gulf over the next several days, and nothing going on other than a stray hiccup of a shower, Red River Valley of the North, heading through the heartland. Same for the day Thursday. Matter of fact, the first inkling of any rain in the eastern Corn Belt, maybe not till Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week, maybe the first half of next week, ultimately getting going into the northern Plain States area. So there is a change slowly expected to evolve. Next couple of days, moisture-wise, most of it into coastal areas of the mid-Atlantic region down through Florida, and a pretty good swath moving into northern California, Rogue River Basin, Willamette Valley of the Pacific Northwest. So hopefully you'll get some substantial and significant rain there. And it is the start of the rainy season in that part of the country. Severe weather, ain't none to speak of, just maybe a couple of thunderstorms embedded in some of the shower activity into the upper Midwest, Red River Valley of the North, northward, and across the Divide country, across the western states. So there is Imelda and Umberto. No, they are not superstorm, mega, whatever hurricanes, all that social media stuff. And I mean, I'm not knocking social media here for but it's just sometimes bad information out there. Folks who forecast and put the stuff out there, and they have no educational or experience credentials about it. You can't get in the basic science of meteorology, you can't get a monster storm out of the tropics. The atmosphere doesn't work that way. Remember Sandy, maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that monster hurricane, it wound down, it got absorbed into the northern branch of the jet stream. And we were off to the races with just high wind all the way back towards the southern Great Lakes region, a lot of devastation, rain and flooding. into the northeast of New England. Inland areas actually had a early season snow. I believe that was another October storm. So you need some semblance of the polar jet to get involved into the tropics to get these mammoth wound up storms. They just don't happen when you put not necessarily or even as to be topics of the world. So there's my diatribe for the day today. You can see Imelda, that's the storm track moving out to sea. And so it's just the Outer Banks and coastal sections from Georgia northward that'll have some influence of seas, waves, and some rainfall. There is system number 15E, or investigatory 15E, as the Air Force guys like to call it, and a little disturbed weather not far from Cabo San Lucas. Again, that's been another part of the country or hemisphere that's been pretty busy in this so-called non-El Nino year. La Nina's coming. I just don't think we're out of an El Nino, but that's just me. Anyway, headlines going forward: dry weather across the plains of the Midwest. I'll head forward on harvest operations. Remember, safety first. I believe October starts Farm Safety Month, I think, if I remember right here. Most of the significant precipitation, Pacific Northwest into the Cascades. Key ag areas will get rain in that part of the country as Imelda and Umberto move away, and the lingering fronts off the Gulf and the Atlantic continue to generate rain. There's been a big improvement to dryness and drought in the Sunshine State over the past 6 weeks or so. There are high temperatures today, 85 to 90 from baseball at Wrigley Field, although they'll fall back in the 70s with the Padres in town. First of those 3 wild card games at Wrigley Field, and everybody else for outdoor work, low afternoon humidity, 85 to 90. That's about 10 to 15 above average, flirting with 90 on the max temperature seen here towards Friday. You can see some cooling across the western states that will move into the northern and central plains about Monday next week. Otherwise, still running 75 to 80, some spots 80 to 85 across the Corn Belt, and still largely high and dry. Upper air charts, you can see that system that came and will be coming ashore in the Pacific Northwest, that upper air low dropping in and around Vegas, and that trough kind of broadens out, so there'll be a number of little ripples moving on through. Sometimes when they broaden out, what we call in weather business waves or upper air disturbances minor out, meaning they weaken as they encounter that warm ridge. So maybe a little more increase in cloud cover, but there's nothing of significance till maybe a couple of stray showers into the northern and western Corn Belt between Monday or Sunday, Monday. And then that system moves on out, and you can see another one moving into California towards Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. So no real significant rain still. And there are the surface weather maps and charts as well going forward. You do have a front that approaches, but again, a lot of the upper support will shift to the north. So there may be some cooler days ahead for parts of the Midwest, noticeable cool off for the western states and northern and central plains, the northwestern reaches of the Corn Belt as well, where we will likely see, and this is more or less for livestock operations, that nighttime temperatures will be falling into the anywhere between the upper 20s and mid 30s. So you have some frost potential, but a little more chill on livestock. So maybe you're ready to get some of those confinement areas, warmer, sheltered regions ready to go. Not a barbaric cold air mass, but again, you're kind of getting close to the usual frost dates into the northern plains along the divide and back into the Intermountain West for this time of the year. Next to 7 days, most of the meaningful rain is in the Arrowhead of Minnesota, back across the Dakotas. Those folks are in relatively good order with regard to soil moisture compared to everybody else in the eastern through southern Corn Belt. You can see the shades of red down there with the outer circulation of Imelda bringing rainfall, and then the sea breeze fronts off the Atlantic and the Gulf. Here's the drought monitor from last week. And some issues in Ohio and Indiana and Illinois and points on southward. We'll see how this Thursday's drought monitor looks. That will have taken into account the rains from about a week or so ago. Issues into the northeast to New England and across the divide and points on westward. Really the best areas from soil moisture across the Dakotas, the northwestern Corn Belt, parts of the Great Plains. There's a little more of an Illinois, or I should say Midwest snapshot across Ohio and southward into Missouri, the worst of the dry, drought-ridden conditions. The next 6 to 10 days, we see a little trough, if you will, in the west. Not anything impressive. You can see a southwest wind flow, little disturbances along it, and so the showers will be little and small in stature, moving through the northern and western Corn Belt through the first week or so of October. And there'll be some cooler days ahead, but nothing off the charts. And matter of fact, still some substantial warmth across the Corn Belt locales back into the plains. Any semblance of normal temperatures are back across the divide to about the Black Hills. And this is probably a little bit overdone, we think. Here we're looking at it, and this is just maybe just a little more frequency of moisture into the northern and central plains. I think nothing of big time scale expected. That's a little bit overdone. And there is some indication of maybe a little tropical system trying to get going. I forgot to mention this in the southwestern Gulf. Pressures are expected to lower. There may be a weak depression that comes ashore, then drifts aimlessly into the southeastern states and the southern Appalachian Trail. So I think that moisture there is reflective of that thinking should it materialize over the southeastern part of the country. And for giggles, here is the National Weather Service NOAA 30-day and 90-day outlooks. The top two panels are October. And usually when there's really some consternation or no real significant clear thinking on temperature on an area, whether it's temps or precip, it gets labeled equal chances. So it could be above, it could be a little below. This is the Weather Service's perspective, just to keep things into perspective here. Would think that that's probably a pretty good idea with dry weather over Texas, lower Mississippi Valley into the Ozarks for not only the 30-day, but that bottom panel is a 90-day outlook. And that's about right. And that's been kind of lining up nicely in our longer range stuff as well, with at least a return to maybe normalized moisture with time. This takes into account October, November, December, and it's going to be more likely November and more likely December and beyond before we get significant moisture. Most of that should begin in liquid form. No real cold snap in sight around here. We want to put that way until we get into perhaps the holidays and beyond from there. We'll have that thinking updated, and I don't think there will be much to update, but we'll talk about it on the live stream on the 15th of October, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So, Sarah, that's it from the weather office. Hope you guys are having a blast out there in Madison, Wisconsin.
It's going great here at Dairy Expo, and we're thanking you for the weather, Greg. And we're going to hold you to a great week here. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, lots going on, and it really does feel like September more than October. So,
and more like July and August in some areas of the heartland as well. So still lots of summertime to go here, at least over the next 5 to 10 days for parts of the middle sections of the country.
Very good. And for feedstuffs, I want to encourage everybody to check out our social media channels and our website for our coverage here from World Dairy Expo in Madison, Wisconsin. So, Greg, we'll catch up with you on Friday. We appreciate your insight here today.
Enjoy.
And thank you all for tuning in as well.